Hi, I'm John Paul Caponegro.
Steve Johnson. We're old friends.
Hey, take the old out of that.
You can try if you will.
So, nature is extremely important to both of us, and I wondered if you could share a few of the most important moments you've had in the natural world.
Well, one of them was this ironic situation where I was out at the Grand Canyon near the whole complex of the South Rim. On a hazy day, watching this tour bus pull up next to me, and these folks got out of the tour bus, and two of them happened to walk up near where I was. And I heard one turn and say to the other after maybe a 15-second glance at the Grand Canyon, say to their companion, "You know, it just doesn't look like the postcards." And they turned around and headed back to Babbitt's store, I'm sure, to buy the postcards with all the souped up color in all of the sunset, that perpetual golden sunset under which all landscape photographs are supposed to be made, because the golden light is the only light, which I think is such a truncated, narrow view of what real world experience of light on the planet is.
Well, it's gorgeous, but there are other qualities of light that are gorgeous as well.
Yeah, bright, harsh sunlight on a desert day with mirages shimmering above the plain is incredibly beautiful. And
or night where you can barely see.
Or at night where you can barely see, and then fireflies. I mean, there's miracles everywhere we looked, and those icebergs or glaciers crashing into the water under moonlight.
Right. You remember going through the gullet for more than 3 hours, the whitest place I've ever experienced in my life.
That was one of the more amazing days I've ever had.
Yeah.
It was like a parade of wonder that day in the Antarctic Peninsula, in that place apparently that people don't get to go very often.
Yeah, I talked to the captain, Alexei, on our last trip, and he said that he had only been there a couple times in 20 years of sailing.
Yeah.
So we're really privileged to see it. And it makes me think back on some of the more sublime moments in my life. One of them was recently in Iceland, being behind Seljalandsfoss, the waterfall that you can walk behind, in that golden light where the whole thing just lit up like fire. And it was equally beautiful after the sun went down and it was in hushed blue, but when it was on fire, it was extraordinary. Or being in a helicopter over Sossusvlei, we're about 3,000 feet up, and those are 1,500 foot high dunes. And magnificent, just breathtakingly beautiful.
There's been a lot of instances like that flying where...
What are a couple of your tops?
Well, a 5-hour flight over Iceland one day was a succession of what seemed almost like extraterrestrial landscapes. And especially flying over Iceland, where you get the change from fire to ice so quickly between the volcanism, whether erupting or not, the steam vents and the obvious flows of the past. And then this glacier-covered area, and then the volcano breaking out of it. Again, not active, because I haven't seen that in Iceland, but the landforms themselves. Those kinds of things are pretty miraculous. Or watching the lava actually flow into the ocean at Volcanoes National Park in Hawaii, and being so entranced by it that I couldn't leave. I just stayed there into the night, continuing to watch this, even with the smell of sulfur being rather strong, and eventually realizing my skin was starting to burn from it a little bit. And at one point I looked at a lens and there were pieces of volcanic glass settling on the lens. But I couldn't leave. It was this ever deeper draw into watching that glare of sunlight, of white light on the steam clouds coming off, where you couldn't see the lava at all, to that gradually decreasing sunlight where the lava started to emerge from the steam and eventually completely dominate any visual experience you had, was this fire pouring into the Pacific Ocean, making new Earth. And having been crunching around on it all day, I could not escape that reality of that crunch was being just echoed in one way or another into that land that was being made with every moment of that lava hitting the water. And there was a larger peninsula there the next day than was there the day before.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff, to say it's mind-blowing, I suppose, is compacting it into a cliche. But it certainly stretches your imagination and gives you a place in time and space that becomes a very sacred experience.
Yeah, I'm wondering what we take away from those miracle moments. For me, it's certainly an expanded sense of wonder. Who could have imagined that the world was this complex, interesting, beautiful? Or that I'm connected, a part of something so big and so wonderful. And I wonder what you take away from those miracle moments, how you are changed by it.
Great privilege, for sure. I get a sense of feeling very fortunate to be able to have seen what I've seen. Not that I haven't worked very hard to make sure I did, but that doesn't lessen the wonder. I mean, that's true when I got to watch the space shuttle launch and I was on the tower next to it the evening before. So those wonders come in lots of forms, and photography has been a way in to many things like that. I don't know exactly that I could generalize about what I take away, other than I continue to be humbled by how small I am. I continue to be engaged at the ways that I belong here, and at the same time as the ways that I still feel separate from it. Because my mind and heart can both be made to feel at home. But then almost in the same moment, just in my own head, thinking about my own consciousness, it is a separate entity from those things around me as well. So there's a push-pull between the sense of belonging and the sense of separateness at the same time. And I don't have any great insight to derive from that. I don't really think I've got much insight about anything. But I do have sensitivities, and I do have an appreciation of beauty and wonder. And I think that's what, in so many ways, I strive to communicate with my photography.
Great. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure. No problem.